Now let's do rational exponents. A rational exponent is when you raise a number or a variable to a rational number. So we know that a to the 1 over n is the nth root of a. And a to the m over n is the nth root of a raised to the mth power. Or you can write it as, you can write it either one of these two ways. The nth root of a to the m or a to the nth root of a raised to the m. This is really confusing. Wait until we cover a few problems. It'll help. Here are some properties you need to be very comfortable with. If I have the same base, then when I multiply a to the m times a to the n, then I'm going to add my exponents. This is a to the m plus n. When I raise raised power to a power, so a to the m to the n is a to the m times n. This is hard to say. If I raise a product to a power, then I can distribute that down to both. So ab product to the m is a to the m times b to the m. Now the negative is means 1 over. So a to the minus m is 1 over a to the m. When I'm taking the ratio of a to the m divided by a to the n, then I'm going to subtract the powers. So that would be a to the m minus n. And of course, if I'm raising a quotient to a power, then I can distribute that down as well. Let's work through a few problems. If I have 216 to the 1/3, well, let's see. This is the cubed root of 216. Now I've memorized my facts, so I know that's the cubed root of 6 cubed. So this is 6. I could have also written this as 216 is 6 cubed. So this is 216 to the 1/3 is 6 cubed to the 1/3, and then multiplied those two powers. This is 6 cubed 3 times 1/3, which is just 6 to the 1. So there are several ways to get to the solution of many of these problems. By the way, that's just 6. So if I have 7 to the 1/2 times 7 to the 1/2, this is 7 to the 1/2 plus 1/2, because they have the same base. So that's just 7 to the first power, or 7. Oh, now these have the same power. So let me write this as 5 times 125 to the 1/4. Now what's 5 times 125? So that's, sorry, pen is acting up, 2. So this is 625 to the 1/4. Now I just happen to know that 5 to the 4th is 625, because I memorized my facts. So this is 5 to the 4th times 1/4, which is 5 to the 1, or 5. Yes, from right here, if you knew it, you could have just written it down. Now, what are these in radical form? So x to the 3 over 7. When I write this in radical form, the bottom number is in my, goes right there in my radical, and this is x cubed. Now I can also write this as the 7th root of x, whole thing raised to the 7th. So the cubed root of x to the 7th. Either one of these is fine. Now what about y to the minus 3.5? This negative sign means 1 over. So this is going to be 1 over y to the 3.5. Now what is 3.5? Well, 3.5 is 7 halves. So this is 1 divided by y to the 7 halves. I want it in radical form. So this is going to be 1 over, okay, so it's going to be, the denominator goes right here, so there's my 2, y to the 7th. Now in general, we don't put the 2 there. Mathematicians are notoriously lazy. It is implied. What are these in exponential form? Now, the square root of a to the 5th. Remember, there's an implied 2 there. So this is a to the 5 halves. The 5th root of b cubed. This is b to the 1/5 cubed. So we multiply them, or b to the 3/5. Again, there are multiple ways to get to some of these answers. Now, how am I going to simplify this one? I don't have common anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write these as fractional exponents. So this is x to the 3/4 divided by x to the 2/8. So I'm going to simplify this, x to the 3/4. Now, 2/8 is 1/4. Now I'm doing a division. So this is x to the 3/4. I'm going to subtract the denominator power. So 3/4 minus 1/4 is 2/4. But that's just x to the 1/2. Perfectly acceptable answer. If you want it in radical form, square root of x. Now what about 16 to the minus 2/5? 2.5. Well, this is 1 over 16 to the 2.5. Go ahead and take care of that negative sign first. 2.5 is, what is this, 5 halves? Now, I'm going to write this as 1 over 16 to the 1/2 to the 5th. You always do the denominator first because you're going to take a root. The square root of 16 is 4. Now, 1 over, sorry, my pen, 4 to the 5th is 1,024. Now, what about something like this? Let me do the 5th root first and then raise it to the 4th power. Now, that negative sign is not going to bother me at all because it's an odd power, so it's going to be negative. Now, the 5th root of 32 is 2. Now I'm going to raise this to the 4th power. So negative 2 to the 4th, well, negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, so this is 16. I want to point out, had you raised it to the 4th power and then tried to take the 5th root, it would have been a bit of a mess. Oh, goodness. What about something like this? Minus 8x times the square root of xy to the 2/3. Get rid of the square root sign. All right, this is negative 8x times x to the 1/2 times y to the 1/2 to the 2/3. Now you're going to want to combine terms. So this is negative 8x, let's see, that's a 1, so 1 plus 1/2 is 3 halves times y to the 1/2 to the 2/3. Now I'm going to take this 2/3 and distribute it to each term. So this is going to be negative 8 to the 2/3, x to the 3 halves to the 2/3, times y to the 1/2 to the 2/3. So now I'm going to multiply these down. Now I know -8 is -2 cubed. I know that. And that's going to be times 2/3 times x to the 3/2 times 2/3 times y to the 1/2 2/3. So now let's simplify. This is going to be -2 squared, which is 4. This is just going to become x, 3/2 times 2/3 is x to the first. And this is going to be y to the 1/3. So my answer is 4xy to the 1/3. All right, now what about something like this? 16y to the -8 to the 3/4. I'm going to take that negative sign and get rid of it first. Tell you what, why don't I go and distribute it first? And I'll show you something a little different. 16 to the 3/4 times y to the -8 to the -3/4. Now, 16 I know is 2 to the 4th to the -3/4. And I'm going to go in and multiply this. This is y to the -8 times -3/4. All right, so let me multiply these two. This is 2 to the 4th times -3/4. And this is going to be y. It's going to become positive 6. So this is going to be 2 to the -3 y to the 6, which is y to the 6 divided by 2 cubed, which is y to the 6 divided by 8.